Congressman Trey Gowdy. He will be joining us tonight in just a few minutes. He called out this cancerous prejudice and discrimination. Take a look.
Agent Strzok, despite the plain language of his texts and emails, despite the Inspector General's report, and despite common sense, doesn't think he was biased. He thinks calling someone destabilizing for the country isn't bias. He thinks promising to protect the country from someone he hasn't even begun to investigate isn't bias. He has a different set of rules for others that he's investigating. Agent Strzok thinks saying someone he is allegedly investigating should be elected president 100 million to 0 before he ever interviews her. He doesn't think that's bias. Agent Strzok thinks pronouncing someone innocent before bothering to interview more than 30 different witnesses isn't bias.
If we don't get this right, we will lose this country. And of course, Peter Strzok's animus, his hatred towards Donald Trump, it didn't stop with just the president himself. No, it also extended to Trump voters. You know, we, the people, all of us that are irredeemable, deplorables, you know, we Americans that actually believe in God and our Bibles and our religion and believe in the Second Amendment. Take a look at this.
Let's discuss a text that hits home for me. On August 26, 2016, you texted Ms. Page, quote, just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support. And smell is in capital letters, all capital letters. What does Trump support smell like, Mr. Strzok?
Sir, that's an expression of speech. I clearly wasn't smelling one thing or the other. What I was commenting on is living in Northern Virginia.
What does that mean?
What I meant by that was living in Northern Virginia, having traveled 100 and 150 miles south within the same state, I was struck by the extraordinary difference in the expression of political opinion and belief amongst the community there.
And you described that as smell in capital letters.
Sir, that was a quick choice of words in a text.
All right. So earlier,
seen or heard.
Okay. So earlier, you had texted Ms. Page on that another part of Virginia, Loudoun County, which is, I think, in Northern Virginia, is, quote, still ignorant hillbillies, end quote. Is that what you meant?
No, sir, not at all.
That you consider Trump supporters to be ignorant hillbillies?
Not at all.
Smelly hillbillies that like Walmart. Now, you follow that exchange. Once again, Peter Strzok asked all of us, the American people, to suspend logic and believe he didn't really say what he was caught texting. Watch one more unbelievable, insane denial.
You were both rooting for Hillary Clinton to win, and you both detested Donald Trump. Did you not?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay. And in fact, as we've learned, you apparently found Donald Trump's supporters detestable, too, like those around Loudoun, Virginia, as we've already heard, whom you called ignorant blanks. I'm not going to say that here, and that you had visited a Southern Virginia Walmart and could smell the Trump support. Don't you think that the American people, when they're paying your salaries, when they're paying for a fair and unbiased investigation by none other than the FBI, deserved a whole lot better than what those comments I just referred to reflect?
Congressman, two things. One, I absolutely regret the appearance of some of those texts and wish I would have said or phrased or not said at all some of the things I did. Two, I disagree completely with your attribution of my views of Trump supporters. I never said that. I expressed no such thing.
Now, no intelligent American would believe that denial with more verbal gymnastics than we actually saw. I never thought we could top this. Former President Bill Clinton. Remember, it all depends what is. Now, we were alone, but I never really thought we were alone. In order to believe these bizarre explanations from this verbal contortionist, you would literally have to suspend all sense of fact and fiction. And of course, Peter Strzok, well, he does think that the smelly, irredeemable, deplorable Trump supporters of Walmart, the hillbillies like us that believe in God and guns and Bibles and religion, we don't measure up. He thinks, yeah, I guess we're pretty dumb and he could just do whatever he wants. I have some bad news for Peter. He's not the infallible super patriot that he clearly has convinced himself he is. He lies to our face, and in the end, he's not going to get away with it. In other words, he's not above the law, because the American people saw these lies today. We know a cover-up when we see one. By the way, so did Congressman Louis Gohmert. Take a look at this tense exchange.
And you have come in here and said, I had no bias. And you do it with a straight face. And I watched you in the private testimony you gave. And I told some of the other guys, he is really good. He's lying. He knows, we know he's lying. And he could probably pass a polygraph. No, the disgrace, what this man has done.
The gentleman from Texas will suspend for a moment.
There is the disgrace. And it won't be recaptured anytime soon because of the damage you've done to the justice system. And I've talked to FBI agents around the country. You've embarrassed them. You've embarrassed yourself. And I can't help but wonder when I see you looking there with a little smirk, how many times did you look so innocent into your wife's eye and lie to her about Lisa?
Mr. Chairman, this is outrageous.
The credibility of a witness
Shame
is always
on you,
an issue.
Mr. Chairman, please, there's
Mr. Chairman, this is intolerable harassment of the witness.
What is wrong with that? You need your medication.
It is clear, it is obvious to every American with common sense. Peter Strzok definitely has an unfaithful relationship with the truth. Now, without a doubt, this is the greatest case of cognitive dissonance that I've ever seen in my life. He's out of touch with reality. He thinks only he knows what's right for America. It couldn't be more obvious. The poster child of what we now know as a deep state, thinking he knew better and knows better than we smelly Trump supporters. But predictably, in order to deflect, he used an all-too-common tactic of the left, launched into some attack, into some of the, quote, extreme folks on TV. And I have a response, just like yours truly. Take a look.
I understand why people might think that, particularly based on the misrepresentations of extreme folks in the media, conspiracy theorists, folks in this body and elsewhere. And that's why I'm glad to be here today publicly, why I'm glad to hear that people are calling for the release of my private interview, so that people can judge for themselves who I am, what I said, and the facts, and not something that's being spun or misrepresented in some 10 o'clock talk show or other place.
If you don't like the reporting and the truth and the investigations, I have an invitation to Mr. Arrogant One. And by the way, you can bring your girlfriend, Lisa Page, with you. We can do it right to my face. And I'll even offer you, Peter, what I offered your boss, Jim. 3 hours of radio on 570 of the best radio stations in America. And right here, thanks to our loyal viewers, the #1 show in all of cable news. I'll give you a full hour. I'll tell you what, I'll give you 2 full hours. We'll run it 2 days in a row, a 2-day extravaganza. If your track record is so impeccable and you really haven't done anything wrong, you're welcome. 2 hours and 3 on radio. Come and defend yourself. I'm not going to hold my breath. And believe it or not, in addition to Strzok's obfuscation, he actually confirmed a very important piece of information about the deep state. This is something we have been telling you about for months. As Strzok admitted, Christopher Steele's dirty dossier was in fact supplied to the FBI by Bruce Orr. Remember, Orr was the high-ranking Justice Department official during the Obama administration. He was married to Nellie Orr. She worked for Fusion GPS, who worked closely, yes, with the foreign national Christopher Steele, who sold us Russian lies to influence the election. Watch this.
You said you did not personally receive documents from Mr. Orr, but the FBI did. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you also said the FBI got documents from a different source in mid-September. Different source than whom?
Different source from Mr. Orr. It was not Mr. Orr who provided the initial documents that I became aware of in mid-September.
So Mr. Orr did not hand you the dossier?
Mr. Orr didn't hand me anything. Mr.
FBI.
Orr provided information to the FBI that included material that is what everybody's calling the dossier. Reporting from Mr. Steele.
Say that again. Say that sentence again. Mr. Orr provided what?
He provided some elements of reporting that, my understanding is, originated from Mr. Steele.
So Bruce Orr did give the FBI information relative to the dossier?
Yes.
Bought and paid for, foreign national put together, Russian lies to influence the election. A perfect example of the deep state working together to use a piece of what Clinton paid for, the Russian lies, yeah, all to impact and influence an election. Very revealing, one of the more explosive revelations during today's marathon House hearing with disgraced FBI agent Peter Strzok. Joining us now with more, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. Oh, by the way, Congressman Jordan, welcome to the club. If you support Donald Trump, you had to know the lies, the smears against you are obviously a political attack.
Yeah,
I'm sorry you're going through that.
Yeah, you've been through it. You know what it's like. So thank you.
Yeah.
But today,
I know it every day. It's all of us. Anyone that supports the president.
Exactly right.
And I'm sorry you and your family have to go through that.
Thank you. Today, think about that. Top DOJ official Bruce Orr actually hands parts of the dossier to the FBI. And remember, Bruce Orr's wife, Nellie, worked for Fusion GPS, who was paid by the Clinton campaign to put this entire dossier together. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that the FBI has admitted they got parts of the dossier from Bruce Orr, a fellow DOJ employee. That's scary.
And the wife of Bruce Orr, wasn't she one of the ones that worked for Fusion GPS that
all
had
summer
the
long.
money that was funneled through Perkins Coie, that hired the foreign national, and that got Russian lies? Oh, Russia tried to impact the election through Hillary. Is that not true?
Exactly. Bruce Orr, fourth-ranking official at the Department of Justice. His wife works for Fusion GPS in the summer. He gets information, passes it to the FBI. That becomes the basis to spy on the Trump campaign. Plain and simple. This is the first time, to my knowledge, the FBI has admitted that, and it was good that we got some of that information out today. So this whole investigation...
The hesitation.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He hesitated. He didn't want to answer your question.
Sure did. It took me 3 rounds to get it out of him. But I'll tell you what, this investigation started flawed with the dossier, and Matt Gaetz had some great questioning where when Mueller gets rid of Strzok, it's now flawed on the back end as well, because Bob Mueller didn't even ask Peter Strzok about all these text messages that show his animus to Donald Trump, to President Trump. So Bob Mueller, when the day he fired him, it was like a 15-minute meeting. He didn't even get into the fact that Peter Strzok had written all these terrible things about our president. He didn't even get into that. So this thing was flawed when it started on this based on this dossier, and it's flawed here at the end based on when they got rid of Strzok and didn't even ask him important questions.
Just like Andrew Weissman, who lost tens of thousands of Americans their jobs, overturned 9-0 Supreme Court, 4 innocent people sent to jail for a year, overturned by Fifth Circuit, and gets excoriated by a judge for withholding exculpatory evidence. He's on Team Mueller. There's no team in America that could ever be fair with the pit bull like that. Let me ask you this. At the heart of this, was Hillary's investigation rigged? So the favored candidate's investigation rigged? And was this a specific attempt to basically steal an election, pretty much? The smelly people, don't let them win.
Yeah, well, we always thought the Clinton investigation was rigged. Now what we've learned in the last several months and from the Inspector General's report, we know it was rigged. And the same people who ran the Russian investigation. They started the Russian investigation based on this dossier. This was such a key element to getting the warrant, the secret warrant, to spy on Carter Page associated with the Trump campaign. So it looks flawed from the get-go on that investigation as well, Sean.
Congressman, thanks for being with us. I'll tell you this.